If you're planning on starting a bullet journal in 2025 to be more productive and to organize all of your ideas, this is the right video for you because today I'm going to show you a very simple yearly setup for your bullet journal for 2025. This setup is going to be beginner friendly and I'm going to explain all of the pages that I'm doing and some extra ones that you might want to include in your first bullet journal. I've been bullet journaling for 8 years now, and so I've been trying a lot of different notebooks and spreads and layouts, and I've gathered up some of the most useful pages and layouts to use in your new bullet journal. All of the supplies that I'm using for this video are going to be linked down below, but to create your own bullet journal, you just really need a fine liner or a gel pen. You don't really need fancy pens or anything, but if you'd like to know everything that I'm using in this video, you can check out the description box below. So for this theme, I'm just going to use a couple of mild liners because those are normally my favorite pastel pens to use in my bullet journal, and a couple of fine liners, and these are from Pentel. For this setup, I'm actually creating a theme, but I don't really recommend thinking too much about it because the essence of bullet journaling is to make you more productive and more organized in your life, so the theme is completely optional. But this theme is going to be extremely simple, so you can recreate it at home, and if you don't want to doodle anything, you can purchase my stickers up on my shop. These are my 2025 bullet journal stickers, and it's part of this theme, and you can also grab the bullet journal planning kit that I have on my shop as a digital version for you to print at home. With that being said, let's get started with this beginner-friendly bullet journal setup. The first page that I'm doing in this bullet journal is going to be the index. Now, the index is just for you to catalog all of the pages that you have in your bullet journal with the number of the pages. The notebook that I'm using is from Typhosi and the pages are already numbered, which is a lifesaver. But if your notebook is not numbered and you don't want to number all of the pages by hand, you can just use some tabs in your bullet journal to keep you track of where the pages are if you did them in between the monthly setups. But still, I highly recommend you having an index, at least for your first and second bullet journals, because there are going to be a lot of pages that you're going to put in between monthly setups, and they are going to be all over the place in your bullet journal, and this is a great way for you to find them quickly. So for the title, I did some bubble lettering with the Zebra Mildliner pens. These are one of the best pens that I use in my bullet journal frequently because they are really pastel colors and they're not that opaque, so I really like that mix of texture and saturation on a pen. So I'm using these ones, but if you like markers and you want a good set of markers, I highly recommend the Crayola Super Tips. And I choose bubble letters for this title so you can easily do them and realize that you don't really need to do fun calligraphy in your bullet journal. When I started bullet journaling, I also learned to do calligraphy, so I mixed both of them at the same time in my first bujo, but I honestly just don't think it's needed for you to do bullet journal. It's totally optional, but if you want to learn calligraphy, I have several videos about calligraphy for beginners as well. But in this case, and since this is a beginners-friendly bullet journal setup, I decided to go with bubble lettering. And to make them a little bit more interesting, I added an outline with the fine liner, the 0.5 mild liner, which is really fine, to add the outline of the letters, and I think it adds some more texture and personality to them. In pages where the layout takes up the whole page and you don't have a lot of space for decorations, I like to highlight every other page on the actual layout so they are more interesting to look at and they don't look like a blank page. And for this layout, you're going to have the number of the page on the left and the content of it on the right. This is something that you should be doing every month so you can keep track of the pages that you have in your bullet journal and you don't miss track of them. For decorations and the actual theme of this bullet journal setup, I decided to just draw some flowers, and I used the same Mindliner pens that I used for the title and for the layout to create the flowers, and I think it adds something that ties up the whole theme together. So I just drew some flowers and some leaves with the green, and I think they look really minimal but really beautiful. And again, these are available as stickers on my shop. The next page that I'm doing in this bullet journal setup is going to be the key. So a key is really important, especially if you don't have a system to organize your tasks and you just do bullet points for everything. A key is really important for you to keep track of what is in your bullet journal and in your weekly spreads. So normally in the key you have a dot for tasks, a dot with a dash on it if the task is in progress, a dot with a cross on top for the task completed, a dot with an arrow on it if the task was migrated, a dot with a slash on it if the task was cancelled, an exclamation point for when it's something important, a star for memory, a triangle for event, and a dash for note. Now these are the key symbols that I use in my bullet journal and how I do my symbols in my actual bullet journal and how I started. And if you can copy this one, but a lot of people also do color coding, and I personally think color coding just complicates a little bit more the whole bullet journal system, but if it works out for you, that's totally fine. There are a bunch of other key ideas for you to look for on Pinterest and in the bullet journal method website, so I'm going to link that down below as well. But this is one simple key and you can customize it however you want. And famous bullet journalists don't normally have a key in their bullet journal because they are already familiar with the system, but as a beginner I highly recommend you have this as a little cheat sheet for your key. And as you can see, this page looks a lot fuller and colorful because of where I did the spread in the middle of the page, and it has all of the flowers around it, and it didn't take much time to do and it looks really beautiful. Now the next page is also a cheat sheet for you new to bullet journal, which is a grid spacing cheat sheet. This is a page that you do in your bullet journal, and it's normally done on the left side so you can flip through your bullet journal and referencing it when you're doing new pages. And this page is basically a cheat sheet for your grid spacing. So if you're using a bullet journal with grids, you normally have a lot of dots in it or squares, and you have to count how many squares it's in the middle or in thirds or in fourths. And this cheat sheet is going to literally tell you how many squares are on the page and how many you need to leave to create a fourth division on the page or a third division. So I just numbered the dots at the top and on the left side of the page so I know how many dots the page has, and then I divided the page into 2 parts, 3 parts, and 4 parts because that's normally how I divide my pages, and each segmentation has a different color so you can coordinate them a little bit better. You can do this for anything in any division that you need, but I just did this to mine because that's normally what I use. And as you can imagine, this is a very useful page so you know how many squares you need in your layouts every time that you create a new page, and you don't have to count them all over again every time you do a layout in your bullet journal. Up until this point, all of the pages that I did are completely optional, but I highly recommend you to try them in your first bullet journal because I believe that they are really helpful. Now, this next page is very optional, but I think it's fun because I believe that if you're having a bullet journal and you are a creative, you should have fun in creating your bullet journal, and it shouldn't be just about productivity and organization. You can have fun in your bullet journal and do whatever you want, so why not create a yearly cover page? I personally love doing cover pages in my bullet journal setups and yearly collections, so I decided to include this in here because I believe that you should have fun in your bullet journal, and it's not this page that is going to ruin your productivity and organization. I personally love to draw in my bullet journal, so this is a little fun page to have in your yearly setup. So I just wrote 2025 in the middle with the same color palette that I've been using for the zebra eyeliners, and I added a bunch of flowers on this page. And since I'm doing a page that is totally optional, I highly recommend you to try all types of lists and spreads into your bullet journal before you move them digitally, or if you already have them digitally, try having them in your bullet journal. When I started bullet journaling, I did a bunch of lists in my bullet journal, and then I would have to migrate them to every bullet journal. So some of the lists that are constantly changing, I added them into my Notion digitally, but some lists I still like to have in my bullet journal. So I highly recommend you to try different pages and layouts in your bullet journal before move them digitally. But I also should mention that you should include a new page in your bullet journal just every once in a while. Don't try to have 20 different spreads or different pages into your monthly setup and try to keep up with everything, because life gets in the way, you get busy, and you don't do anything in your bullet journal because you did too many pages, and then you can't keep track of anything. So if you want to try a new page, make sure you try one new per month, and don't give up after just 1 month of trying a new page. I remember that when I started doing trackers in my bullet journal, I did a mood tracker and I stayed consistent with a mood tracker layout in my bullet journal for a couple of months before calling it quits. I think there's a period for you to really understand if you like to use a page or not, so don't quit after the first month of trying one. The next page in this beginner's friendly bullet journal is going to be the future log. So this is a page that you see a lot of people doing in their bullet journal, and I personally recommend you to try in your first bullet journal. This is just a page where you can see all of the months of the year, and you have a small space at the bottom or at the right side of each month to try all the events and important things that are happening. So anything that is going to happen in a specific month for 2025, you can just write it in your future log. And then once you set up your bullet journal for that month, you can reference back to your future log and know what is going to happen and move the task or event into your monthly pages. In these 8 years of bullet journal, I've tried many layouts for future log. I did one that it was a vertical one and it looked really aesthetic, but if I had lots of events, it was not useful. I couldn't use it properly, so that was a no-go, but it was really aesthetic. I've tried this layout, but with the box for the events and tasks on the right side. That is another thing that I recommend, especially if you have a traveler's notebook. And you can also try to separate completely the monthly calendar with the monthly events for the future log. So you have a page on the left side with all of the months of the year, and on the right side, the little spaces for the month. When deciding what pages to try in your bullet journal, make sure you ask yourself if this page is going to make you more productive or it's going to help you in the long run. And of course that if you're thinking about writing all of the days of the months in your bullet journal, I highly recommend you to get a calendar stamp. And I bought mine from Amazon and it saves my life because it just takes literally like 10 minutes to do all of this page. And I don't have to write all of the days by hand, which is a pain to do. Now, of course, that if we are talking about creating a bullet journal for the new year, you should have a page dedicated to your goals. Now, there are many layouts and ways to do a goals page, and you should find the one that works for you. I don't really recommend having a blank page that just says goals at the top. I believe that you need systems to achieve your goals, or at least some sort of structure. So this page is the one that I'm doing here because it's simpler, but if you want to wait until my actual bullet journal setup, you can wait next week to see the type of page that I did for my goals. But in this page, I just wrote goals at the top, and I'm going to divide the page into 4 sections for each quarter of the year. I am a huge believer that you should have a system for your goals and a structure for them to be achieved. So dividing your goals into quarters for the year can be really useful. Depending on your life and goals, your structure for the goals page should change. And for me, it made sense to do one divided by the quarters of the year because you never know what goals you're going to have and how you're going to evolve in your life. So having a dedicated goal or a selection of goals for each quarter may help you to achieve them. I believe that if you had just a blank page for your goals, you could just write open a stationery shop or a small shop and not divide them into different systems, into different baby steps, and that is really important to achieve your goals. But because bullet journal is not only about productivity and organization and serious pages, I decided to include a fun page in here that I called to check out. So this page includes everything that you want to check out eventually and you don't want to forget. I have this page now digitally, but for many years I had it in my collections and it saved me a couple of times because normally I would forget things and I would write them in my bullet journal and then remember them, and it was really useful. So on this page, you just write all the things that you want to eventually check out. And in my page, I divided it into 3 sections, one for movies, one for TV shows, and another one for books. But you can divide it into music and animes and whatever you want to check out. In many of my pages, I did movies, TV shows, books, I did music once, I did anime, and I think I did also like places near me that I wanted to check out. So this page is really versatile and it can include a lot of different things that you want to check out. And like I mentioned, bullet journal is not only about being productive and organized, you should also have fun in some pages, and this one is a perfect example of it. And so I highly recommend you to try this page. If you feel like you want to check out a lot of things but you never know where to put those things and you just keep them in your notes in your phone, maybe this page will save you some time and energy when thinking about the next movie to watch. And last but not least, the last thing that I have to do in my bullet journal is to catalog all of my pages into my index. So as you can see, I just finished all of my collections for the year in this setup. So now it's time to organize them into my index. If you need more ideas for your new bullet journal for 2025, make sure you watch my bullet journal ideas playlist that is linked in the description below. I'm going to post a lot more content about bullet journal next year, so make sure you subscribe to my channel. And if you haven't liked this video, like it already and leave a rainbow emoji if you watched it until this point. Let me know in the comments what is the most useful page that you have in your bullet journal. I would love to know, so let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys!